We asked the question in our why today as we talked about the latest economic numbers that have come out, and some economists are kind of freaking out about it. Why is Arizona's price index rising slower than the rest of the country, and why does it still feel like we're being priced out of the necessities? Joining us right now is our go-to economist, Jim Rounds. He's the president of Rounds Consulting, and of course, when it comes to Arizona, nobody knows the economy here better than Jim. Jim, welcome to the program. Thank you so much for being a part of the show today, as always.
Thanks for the kind words. I appreciate that always.
And we're glad you're not stuck in the Wickenburg roundabouts, too. It's nice that you were able to find the camera.
It's not so much my ability to navigate. It's all the other cars that can't figure out what lane to get into. That's the problem.
Just keep driving in that circle, Jim.
Yeah, there you go.
We've got the inflation looks like it's up about 3% year over year. So that ticks up slightly, although I know some economists were saying 3.1%. How much of a difference does it make when the predictor said 3.1, but it's only 3, but that's still up from last month? Should we be freaking out over that or celebrating that 0.1%?
Never worry about what the predictor says. If the number is different, it just means they messed up their forecast. Nothing else. Just look at the number. I'm not too worried about inflation yet, because I'm anticipating that's going to come later. We were talking about tariffs in the past, and when are the prices going to go up? And I feel like we're starting to get to the point where the businesses, they haven't been wanting to be the leader in raising their prices. You lose market share, and then everybody else raises their prices later, and then you're still lost a big chunk of your market share. I have a feeling that we're going to start to see that come in. So inflation's probably going to creep up. But you're right about the overall. Are we still paying high prices? The inflation number hasn't gone negative. So prices overall haven't come down from that high peak. It's just continuing to grow at a slower rate. But the U.S. didn't grow as fast in terms of inflation earlier, so it's still posting higher rates of growth. We grew at was it 11, 12%, and now we're posting more moderate rates of growth. So we're less in the U.S., but it has to do with like a little curve on a chart or fourth grade math or something. It's not anything special.
Talking with Jim Rounds, president of Rounds Consulting and an economist. And Jim, I was doing some reading today, and I saw a well-known economist use the term mental recession, a sort of mass delusion that the economy can be in. And a couple questions here. One, how do we get out of that? And if we are in a mental recession, whether intended or not, are the president's policies driving this uncertainty and deterring companies from investing in new employees? Like, is the president unknowingly creating this effect of a mental recession?
Well, I haven't heard that term before, but it's kind of a cool term, so I'll figure out a way of using it. That's why I like to talk to you guys, because you're quasi-economist yourself.
Right.
So what I'm thinking is that the economic data in the aggregate has been slowing. We always look at more than one data point, and there's a background story that the economy is slowing. We've been looking at this for months. We've been talking about it for several quarters. We're probably going to have a mild downturn next year if we have one. But I think the extra uncertainty makes people doubt themselves a little bit, but we still see a lot of people spending. It's just disproportionately higher income people spending. So tax collections have still been okay. Right now, because we're shifting from being in a growth phase to maybe that inflection point where things start to weaken, you're going to see data all over the place. The data doesn't tell a good story when you have times that are improving or times that are slowing. And right now, the data is just kind of messy. It's hard to figure out exactly what's happening with each individual piece.
Can we read into that in and of itself? If the data is messy, then we can infer then that it is either growing or slowing. And does that kind of in and of itself tell its own story?
Yeah, and the data points that I like to look at, and they're not always there these days. I always like to look at employment. That's the best indicator. And then I like to look at government tax collections, because you'll hear about surveys and that ask people, how do you feel about the economy? And they'll answer a certain way. But if you look at what they actually spent their money on and how much, it tells you exactly how they feel. And so, looking at some of these, there's regular trends related to state and local tax collections, and that helps us figure out how things are doing in Arizona. It doesn't explain exactly what's happening nationally, though.
So let's talk more about Arizona. You made mention that the people with money are spending a lot of money and sort of propping the economy up, or at least that's what I took from what you said. Are we seeing that play out in Arizona, and how long can that situation last?
Well, when we actually have a recession, if we do, or if it's just an extended period of very slow growth, that's enough where everybody's going to be pulling back some. That's where you actually see some negative impacts on the stock market. And then people get a little bit nervous, and then businesses say, all right, I'm a little more uncertain than I was before. I'm going to hold off hiring. And in cases like Arizona, it might just be holding off on hiring rather than laying people off, like within some of the other weaker states across the nation. So a different kind of recession. But you know what? As long as we can pay for the things that government's supposed to be working on, that's great. The only challenge is the government often works on things that they're really not supposed to be involved with because there's an extra dollar that they can spend. We got to fix some of those problems, but that's why we're in the, shutdown of the economy or shutdown of the government, and have been enjoying those stories, the last couple of weeks.
Jim, you just mentioned the stock market. How does it look beyond the AI stocks out there? I've heard some people say that we've got an AI bubble brewing. You see any signs of that? And what should I be looking for when we talk about a bubble?
So a bubble would be people overreacting to a certain item in the economy. It could be housing, it could be something else. But like an AI bubble, the only reason I think that the AI issue is so big is I feel like it's overstated a bit. Like artificial intelligence isn't quite the same as having advanced algorithms that help you calculate things a little more quickly than you previously did. But we're in that phase where we redefined AI, so it's fine. But when we start having those benefits, then we start being more productive and we all start making more money, and then it improves the economy. So I don't think that people are banking on AI maybe saving the stock market during an economic downturn. I think a lot of it is based on political party. If you're a Republican, you don't think we're going to have a downturn. If you're a Democrat, you think we are. If you're an economist, it's, things are going to slow, but then they'll get better again. So nobody's happy listening to the economists.
Yeah, you're the worst. Jim Rounds, the president of Rounds Consulting. Jim, last question. Are we going to have a very Merry Christmas and a Happy Holidays, or are we going to have a quiet holiday season?
I think it's going to be merry. I don't think we're going to have a lot of the negative impacts on the economy until after the beginning of the next year. And we'll continue to get to hear about mental recessions and other things like that. I got to look at whatever tape that was on and listen to the context, because I feel like I can use that somewhere. I'm just not sure where yet.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All
Jim
right.
Rounds, president of Rounds Consulting and Valley Economist. Thank you so much for joining us, Jim. We appreciate it.
Take care, gents.
Thanks for watching The Chris and Joe Show. Click to see more from Chris and Joe and tap the button in the middle to subscribe to KTAR News.